So today we're going to talk about the nervous system and why our brains fuck us over every time. Not being dramatic, this is what actually happens. When we start talking about the nervous system and neural pathways, kind of getting into the details of mindset, it starts to get really heady and really complicated, and it sounds like it's nothing to do with you, especially when I start throwing words around like trauma, nervous system, fight or flight, triggered, reaction. Like, they feel very heavy. I'm gonna ask you to go with me today, and I'm gonna simplify what is going on to such a degree that I'm like totally bastardizing the science. So if you are an expert at this, I get it. One of the things I have seen time and time, like not just time and time again, every single time, I'm not joking, understanding the nervous system and understanding how the brain works is often key to people actually making the changes in their life. What do I mean by that? Great question. My client base, busy, powerful entrepreneurs, socialized female, identifying female, cis, like whatever it is, these are people who want to do a lot with their lives and who get a lot of stuff done. Like, I work with incredibly smart, incredibly ambitious, very driven, hyper compassionate people, and still they're getting in their own way. And what I've seen time and time again is the problem is not that you don't have access to the right books or the podcasts, or maybe you've even like delegated a little bit, whatever. You've done a lot of the right, quote unquote, right steps, and still something isn't working. First of all, work with me because we're gonna get to that. And also, understanding your brain and the nervous system is really gonna help you. It's helped every single person I know, especially me. Very impassioned conversation. What I want you to take away from this is you have a lot more agency and power than you may think that you do. Basic. Our brain evolved to keep our body safe. And so our brain has evolved in various stages. We had our very like basic bitch brain right at the back, and we've layered on and on and on more complex things as we have evolved to stand and to use tools and to then create bases and to then work out how to code machines, like how to get people to do stuff for us. Like, our brain continues to evolve and we need more complicated thought structures. But at the heart of everything is our basic bitch brain, which all it cares about is keeping us safe. That's wonderful. Please, let's just like take a moment and say, thank you, brain. Thank you for keeping me safe. Thank you for developing this whole thing that is just to keep me alive. But what tends to happen is our brain is taking in billions of bits of data that we do not process. It just kind of sits around and is influencing us in a way that we don't necessarily know. But it's there. So you may be walking down the street lost in your feelings, but your brain, like every single, and by your brain I mean your whole like sensory system, is taking in like, is that a threat? Is that a threat? What's that shadow? What's that leaf doing? Is there a saber-tooth tiger coming? Like whatever. Like, it's taking in minutiae, and it is basically trying to work out, are we safe? Are we not? It's very binary. More often than not, it will say we're not safe. And then what happens when it's like we're not safe, the rational part of our brain shuts down because it wants to save calories, and it shuts down and we just go into our nervous system of fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Hyper arousal, we go up. Hypo arousal, we go down. Hyper, fight, flight. Again, a lot of different people will conceptualize this differently. Go with me for this. Hyper, we go up, we fight, we flight, we push, we run away. And this isn't literally we fight or we flight. Like, this is like we do things that don't make any sense to anybody else or even ourselves. Hypo is we go down, we people please, probably something you do, and we really shut down. We go blank. We can't figure out what to write. We can't figure out what to do. Our brain is designed to keep us safe. It is very black and white with its thinking. It will shut down the rational brain and go into our more primal brain in order to keep us safe, because it has worked time and time again. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, the tricky thing is Our brain wasn't designed for the world that we live in now. We are overstimulated. We are in so many more connections than we've ever been. We are like, the world is busy and our brain can't always decipher. We also have a lot of stress in our life. Two things our brains love is a story. Our brain functions by telling stories. Like, there's so much cool stuff about this, but basically story is our brain's like one of its most effective like reprocessing tools and processing tools. Number two, our brain has a huge negativity bias. Our brain will always remember more things that did not work than did work, because not doing something is often so much safer than doing the thing. Our brains will tell us pretty consistently, this isn't going to work, we have all this data to prove it, because you need so many more instances of something working than not working for our brain to compute. It also loves to weave in stories about how this isn't going to work and this is what's going to happen, and catastrophizing. It's just the way that our brain functions. It's not its fault. Let's not beat it up. We love it. Thank you, brain. And there's so much more to this. I honestly could talk for 25 hours on this. But basically what's happening is our brain is so stimulated because of the negativity bias and because of the stories that we like to tell. Our brain gets a little sniff of something like stress, which we feel pretty consistently, and it reads it as danger. So not only are we taking in information from the outside world of like danger, 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 we're also, every instance of a little bit of elevation or activation, our system has a whole way of being like, okay, we're in danger too. So it's coming externally and internally. This combines to be a whole thing. And so what I see almost always is people that are coming to me not being able to do the things that they say they want to do. It's not because they are bad at time efficiency. It's not because they are dumb. It's not because they can't get their shit together. It's because they are in this activation phase. And for many of us, we live our whole lives in these activated states of hyper and hypo because of many, many things. That is a whole other video. But the vast majority of people I see, myself included, are functioning in this state. And so your rational brain isn't actually always working at those times. So when we try and think our way out of it, it doesn't work. And then we get frustrated. And then it goes into the bank of you don't know what you're doing. So this whole thing is a self-perpetuating thing. The way that we stop this happening is we do a lot of healing work. We resource our nervous system. We basically make it okay and train our nervous system to understand when we are safer so that we can do the big stuff. The other things that we do is we observe our thoughts. This is where a lot of mindset work comes in, and this is really what mindset means. It basically means we're making new neural pathways, but we need to notice the thoughts first and decide to change them to make it happen. So just know, when you can't quite seem to get something together, it's not your fault, okay? There's just deeper work that we have to do. So this is why when things like you've read all the books, you've done the podcasts, you've done the courses, nothing seems to work. It's not that that doesn't work and you don't work. It's because we have to go deeper and we have to play around with the neural pathways and also your nervous system so that our brain isn't tricky. Here's the kicker. Our brains are as smart as we are. So whatever sneaky way you found of getting out of stuff, your brain also knows that. We will give ourselves like more and more complex thoughts to dissuade us from being unsafe. So just know that that always happens, and this is why this is a lifetime's worth of work, and this is why it's so much better to do this kind of work with support, so you can have somebody else helping you catch your thoughts. Like, I am very good at this. I still like go into my old patterns. I still go into my old reactions all the time. Like, it happens. No big deal. That's why I have a coach to like get me back and catch me. But there is so much that we can do day in, day out. Hopefully this makes sense to you. Please let me know what else I can do to serve you. But the takeaway is brains are tricky. They're not doing it deliberately, but almost always your brain is lying to you about why you can't do something, why you shouldn't do something. And one of the most effective ways of dealing with that is catching the thought, deciding to do something different with it, and also doing this healing work so that our nervous system calms down to allow the rational brain, that thinking, deciding thing, to actually function. Thank you so much. I will talk to you soon. Chelsea's. Bye.